Hey guys, Richard here with Downgrid Survival. Got a few minutes, so I want to talk about something that's on my mind. Should be on your mind too. And that is complacency. That being one of the things, people accepting the new normal. And I think that people are starting to do that. They're starting to just accept, it is what it is. And that's a bad thing. That's a bad thing. We don't need to do that. I think it's important that we remember the way things used to be and the way things are now and how we got here. So I jotted down a quick list here, and I do have a list printed, and I'm gonna talk from that. And this is in no particular order, but these are just some of the things that I just thought of the last few minutes, and I jotted them down. I know there's a lot more, and I want you to, if you think of something, put it in the comment section down below, because I'd like to compile a list of everything that's happened the last couple of years. Now, let's just start with the big V, okay, that swept the planet and that disrupted everybody's lives. And what, how terrible that was for a lot of people. But let's look at, consider the things that surrounded that, all the misinformation and all the, the hysteria and the worry and just there's a lot there that really caused a lot of turmoil. And there's something to be said about whether or not that was a deliberate act that was taking place. And, yeah, conspiracy theory, maybe a little bit there, but I think there's enough information now that has come out to really kind of show that there's a very high likelihood that this was a deliberate act. Let's move on. Let's consider all the social unrest here in the United States over the last couple of years. And I'm talking about all the riots and things that have taken place and that has really caused a division among the people here in the United States. And this is new for us here. It's not new for many places around the world. It's just a way of life for them. There's all kinds of turmoil, but for us here in the United States, it's new and it's significant. Let's look at all the lockdowns and the shutdowns that we lived through and had to deal with, and everything surrounding that. Now, consider the rise of terror groups such as Antifa and BLM that is burning down our cities for whatever their cause is and trying to get the attention that they think they deserve. And, consider the destruction and the fear that was caused there. The political unrest and the political corruption that has taken place here in the United States. Conspiracy theory, right? Not so much anymore. No, I'll argue that point, that whether or not the last election was manipulated and downright stolen. There's enough information now. There's enough video evidence, and there's enough electronic evidence to clearly show that a lot of corruption took place, and collectively, that corruption led to a turnover in the election. And that information is there. And if you're still, a non-believer, too sad for you, because you need to look at that information and accept the fact that it has taken place. Look at the supply chain issues, that has devastated our economy and caused all kinds of disruptions in being able to get parts and supplies and foods and various things. And this all, got started largely from the big V. But, it caused a lot of havoc. Hackers attacking our utilities and our food supply, manufacturing plants, and large corporations, and holding their computer systems hostage and taking them over and causing all kinds of disruptions. We don't hear about a lot of these things anymore because the media just doesn't talk about them. But just because you're not hearing about it doesn't mean it's not happening. We used to have a policy, we don't negotiate with terrorists, and now we do, because they're taking control of our computer systems and bringing down, hospitals and just a number of things. And people are quietly paying these hackers to release the stronghold that they have on our computer systems. And so it's not being publicized, but it's still happening. Let's look at the border crisis. What a horrible thing going on right now for both sides of the border. But it's destroying things here in our country. It's just completely changing things. And there's something about on this list that I'm talking about here. There's something you need to understand. Most of these are deliberate. Most everything I'm talking about has been deliberate acts to dismantle and disrupt and really just to bring down the United States of America. Okay? We're sending billions and billions and billions of dollars overseas to protect borders. And we're doing nothing to protect our own border, because we're just inviting people in, because that's a whole bunch of brand new voters, you know, to manipulate the system. Let's look at the energy crisis. The policies that have upheld or just really destroyed our energy production here in this country. You know, shutting down oil production and restricting oil production, and that has led to just astronomical gas prices. We have electrical grid problems. Our electrical grid is failing, and there's just not enough electricity for the growth. There's not enough electricity because a lot of the hydroelectric dams are being shut down and being scaled back because of the lack of water. And there's just the crisis continue, right? Food crisis. You know, this is something we've been hearing a lot about here for a while now, and we all should have a pretty good understanding of what this food crisis is all about and where it evolves from. And a lot of it is just policy driven. Some of it is driven by the war in Ukraine, but a lot of it is, you know, some of it is just drought. And there's a lot of it that's just unexplained. Unexplained, like why well over 100 food manufacturing plants now have burnt to the ground, caught fire. You know, why large swaths of cattle are just dying for no specific reason. They're blaming it on the heat, but we didn't have this problem in the past. So why do we keep having all these types of things happen that is really affecting our food supply? Let's move on. I already mentioned the war in Europe, okay? And that's escalating. Just because you're not hearing about it in the media doesn't mean that things have gotten better or gotten quiet over there. It's just as nasty now as it was a couple of months ago. In fact, it's expanding and it's getting worse. Belarus is now involved. And, you know, I think we're going to continue to see other nations step up and get involved. In NATO, you know, when all this got started, NATO finally activated 40,000 troops and put them on high alert and started bringing in some forces to fortify some of the border countries there. And then they recently said 300,000 is what they needed. So now they've put 300,000 troops on alert. We know our own military is very active, and there's a lot of military movement. That's been reported by a lot of you who live near military bases, saying, you know, there's a lot of activity going on at the base. And so we know these things are happening. The whole world is in commotion for sure. Then we have things like the attack on our Constitution, where our Constitution is just, they're trying to pick it apart and shred it because it doesn't agree with some people's agenda. Look at how the Supreme Court justices have been attacked. And, you know, whether you agree with their recent ruling or not, they are the Supreme Court of the United States. I mean, they're the head cheese. They're at the top. And what they say, whether you agree with it or not, we need to abide by it. Because if we don't, it's a complete breakdown in our justice system. Well, let's talk about our justice system for a minute. That's not on my list. Look how corrupt that is. So many in our justice system are just turning criminals loose. They're turning the blind eye to crime. They're, you know, even at the highest levels, they're failing to enforce the law. We have organizations like the FBI who have been implicated in the January 6th upheaval there in the Capitol. We know now that it's been proven that they were part of the crowd, that they were a part of what was going on. It's just the whole world is in commotion, and the whole our very way of life has changed. And you would be a little naive to think that it's going to get better, or that we're going to get through this and it's going to go back the way it was, because it's not. A lot of these things I just mentioned are very deliberate. The big V, most likely. Civil unrest, yeah, it was encouraged by a lot of people in our government. It was encouraged and almost praised for the acts of violence that were being committed. Lockdowns and shutdowns, very deliberate. The political corruption, yeah, certainly very deliberate. Supply chain issues, a lot of those were very deliberate. There's a lot of things that could have taken place that would have helped the situation that specifically was not done, that hurt our situation. Of course, hackers is very deliberate. The border crisis, the policies that were reversed were very deliberate. It's a very deliberate act to open up our borders and invite anyone and everyone across that wants to come here. All these things are specifically designed to dismantle the United States of America as a superpower. For decades, the United States has been revered, been looked upon, hated by some, but looked upon by many as, you know, the superpower and the world leader in a lot of areas. But that gets in the way of the elitists that are trying to push the Great Reset, the elitists that are trying to, you know, come up with this one world order and make sure that that's just the way it's going to be for everybody. There's going to be one government, and the United States is in the way. And so all these acts are very deliberate in order to take down the United States so that the elitists in our country and other places around the world can rise up and do whatever it is that they've got planned to do. And it's nasty. It's just straight up nasty. We need to remember all these things because people are complacent and people are just accepting the new norm as, well, this is just the way it is. You know, we try to live our lives as peacefully as we can, most of us, excuse me, and we try to just, to a degree, shut out what's going on around us and just try to press through each day and focus on our family, focus on our job, focus on our home life, and just enjoy it, and try not to be too concerned about what's going on in the world, and just kind of accept the fact that we have higher prices now, and just keep moving forward. And that's what a lot of people are doing. And when you do that, all these nasty things that keep unfolding before us are going to continue, and people are going to continue to just adapt and accept. And one day you're going to wake up and you're not going to have any freedoms, any rights. You're going to be totally dependent on the government, and the government's going to tell you every moment of your existence what you can and cannot do, and you're going to wonder how we got there. That's how we get there. People just accepting this as the new norm. So we can't do that. We can't allow that to happen. We have to remember and not forget all the things that have been happening in the last few years. And we have to continue to prep and be ready for the next big crisis, disaster, calamity that is just lurking around the corner. Because if you could take a moment and actually peek around the corner to see what's coming, I guarantee you they are lined up. And it's just going to keep rolling, and it's going to keep rolling, and it's going to keep rolling. And we're going to have to keep dealing with these things. That's why you need to prep. That's why everyone you know and love and care about needs to prep. Get out there and open your mouths and tell people to stand up and to prep and to be ready and to not be dependent upon the government, and learn to have be self-sufficient and not accept the new norm. It's our only chance. It's our only hope. You know, there was a poll recently, and I forget who conducted the poll, but basically it was, you know, how many people were willing to take up arms against a tyrannical government. And 25% of the people said they were ready and willing to do it. And that's impressive. I mean, 25% of everyone polled was willing to stand up. And our Constitution, here in the United States at least, gives us that right to take up arms against a tyrannical government. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice. And I'm not suggesting that, okay? I'm not advocating it because I don't want to end up in the gulag. But it's going to come to that point. Someone somewhere is going to organize. Someone somewhere is going to stand up. And one day you're going to wake up and it's going to be yet again a completely different world. And, you know, it's going to be a revolution. It's going to be World War 2.0, or excuse me, Civil War 2.0 here in the United States. Because the people have already had enough, but they're still just kind of accepting it. But there's going to come a point where they're going to start taking action, and they're going to say, yeah, you've pushed me to my limits. I'm in the corner. There's nothing else I can do, but I'm going to come out swinging. And we're going to reach that point. So prep. Continue to prep. Tell everyone you know, and stress the importance that they need to prep, because it's just going to continue getting worse. Share this video with them. If you don't have the courage to face them or to talk to them, just send them this video. Say, hey, check this out. What do you think? And then start gauging their feedback. And that way you can kind of see where they are with things. Hey, that's it for this video. I've been rambling long enough. You know, if you like this video, if you get anything value out of it, please smash that like button, because I really need your help to get this video pushed out to more people, because we're being suppressed. Yeah, I really appreciate that. If you have any questions or comments, make sure you put them down below. Give me that list of things that you have seen take place for the last few years that I need to add to my list. So be sure to write some of those down below so I can compile a list. And that's it, and I will hopefully see you in the next video. Thanks.